Hey everybody, welcome back to Distracted, Quartet of Chaos. We're very excited to be doing our first full episode, and we are ready to talk through this movie with you. So if you didn't listen to our intro episode, this is Distracted, Quartet of Chaos. We're going to be watching through all of the Disney animated feature films. Animated feature films in order of their release date chronologically, starting all the way back today with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was released December 21st, 1937. But before we get into it, I want to introduce myself and my three Disney pal sibling friends, brothers and sister.
That was a mouthful.
It was, and that's not what I'm going to be going with from now on, because that
we'll come up with some clever alliteration or something.
It'll happen eventually.
Where'd the distractions?
Okay, so
I thought Quartet of Chaos.
It's lengthy.
We need to have many that we rotate through. Anyways, the oldest of us, the dopey of the group, is Andrew. Say hi, Andrew.
Hello.
And then second oldest is Adam. He is our sneezy.
I was right,
He sneezes quite a lot, so Adam, say hey.
Hey.
Allergies.
And then we have our youngest and littlest little old sister. She's sleepy.
Heck yeah.
And then we have myself. I'm the third, and I'm your hopefully humble host. I'm Aaron. I'm a healthy mixture of Grumpy and Doc. So,
Wait, we get mixtures.
well, I couldn't decide which one to give myself, so here I am. Gonna go ahead and get this out of the way now. There's probably gonna be
It's
some
going to be
lag.
every episode. It's like, yeah, he's this one, and then I am this, and this.
Well, yeah. There's probably going to be a lot of lag. We're dealing with some Wi-Fi issues that we will have resolved next time, hopefully more than likely. Yeah, so that's the four of us. We're excited to walk through Snow White. It's going to be a great time for some of us and a miserably horrible time for others. Thanks, Adam.
In an order that may be surprised, because one of us is excited to crap talk this movie.
I wonder who that could be. Okay, so let's start off by talking about just the nostalgia we have for this movie, if any. Abby, hit me up. You got any nostalgia, any fun memories of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
I remember I was like the only one who liked it growing up, first of all. Because I don't know what it was about it. I just really enjoyed it. I really liked the movie. It's not one that I watched very much as a kid because, it was older. And so I didn't really like older. I just wanted the new stuff. But I did like this one. And, nothing more to say other than, parts with the Evil Queen did freak me out a little bit for
Freaks out most young
Mini
children,
Abby.
so.
But nostalgia-wise, nothing really much. I just liked it. I watched it every once in a while, and that's about
Gotcha.
all that I have attached to it.
Andrew, you got any memories or nostalgia attached to this?
No nostalgia. This movie scared me as a child. I had a fear of dark because of the dark because of this movie.
Was it the forest scene?
No, actually, it's because of how ugly the Evil Queen makes herself, and is a witch. And I just knew she was around a dark corner in the dark growing up, like waiting to give me a poisoned apple or something. I remember taking the trash out as a kid, going taking it up to the road because the trash came early in the next morning. And sprinting back to the door when I got done because I was like, nope, she's not catching me.
Zoom.
I will say one thing that I do actually remember,
Exactly.
which you reminded me of, was that Halloween costume with that ugly witch mask that you would wear a lot, Andrew. Do you remember that? And you would hide in the laundry room and jump out and scare us with that. And I remember it looking a lot like the Evil Queen. So that was a memory that just sprung up.
Now that you mention it, there are some similarities.
Big warty
That
nose.
mask. I hated that thing.
But I still have it somewhere.
The amount of times you made me almost pee my pants with that mask.
Mhm.
I'm just, man,
Pretty sure I did pee one time.
probably. Adam,
You got
any
so mad every
nostalgia memories, scary things associated with this movie in your brain when you think about childhood?
Like it was definitely. I remember watching this movie a couple times as a kid, but I would always, my ADD brain would be like, not even halfway through the movie, like, okay, and then go do something. So it's like I remember watching it, but usually we would watch those the sing along videos, and it would have like the 3 good songs in it, and I was satiated. I'm like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. As with most of the Disney animated movies, this is one that we owned on the VHS. We didn't watch it a whole ton, but I'm pretty sure this was one that our mom was a big fan of, I think. Mom, if you're listening and I'm incorrect, just text me later. It's fine. You don't have to embarrass me publicly. I'm pretty sure she liked this one. I remember one thing when I think about Snow White is we had these glasses. I think they were from maybe a Pizza Hut thing from one of their re-releases.
I think it was Burger King.
Either Burger King or Pizza Hut. It was one of those fast food associated things.
Do you mean the actual
the
glass
cups,
ones?
the glass cups that we had?
Like the really small
It was
ones.
really small ones, and there was one for each dwarf.
All right, so those were actually like little jelly jars.
Yep.
Is what it was.
Yep, jars of jelly that
Really?
Mom cleaned out.
They were jars of jelly.
Wait, really?
When you got done with it, you could clean it out and you used them as cups because we collected all of them at one point.
The
Oh my
other ones,
gosh.
like the Peter Pan and the Beauty and the Beast one we had, those were the Burger King ones.
Yeah,
Oh,
You're
that's
right, you're right.
and the Pocahontas.
Okay, my whole life just got turned upside down
I thought
because
they were just glasses.
I
that she
always
bought
assumed they were
from
just
somewhere.
cups.
I'd like to take a
know-
minute. No, sit right there, and I'll tell you how.
Adam.
Sorry.
I know Pizza Hut did some
I'm
advertisement.
sorry.
Pizza Hut did some advertisement for some of the Disney movies when they would re-release in theaters in the early 90s. And there were a couple ones where they would do like cup
Oh,
sets
yeah.
and stuff. And
I
Burger
think
King did as well. And so-
McDonald's did too. I think they have a few things that were from.
yeah,
McDonald's.
there's a lot of different fast food chains have done advertisements plans with Disney. And so I just always assumed those cups were that. That's interesting that they were jelly cups.
It
that
does
Mom
make
launched.
sense that you don't get actual glassware from a fast
Well,
food chain.
No. But I remembered those. We had those cups. There was one cup for each dwarf and then one with Snow White on it. That, of course, throughout the years, we broke most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like the 12 Days of Christmas cups.
Oh yeah.
Those went by
so
fast.
we had those. I think about that quite often. Or not quite often, just sometimes. But other than that, I don't remember watching this movie too much. I also was very frightened of the Queen. I am a very anxious human being, and Andrew would use that mask to scare me a lot. So, yeah, she's kind of a scary lady, but so not too many memories, but it's definitely one that's always kind of been in our roots somewhere deep down.
And I feel like if we were, closer to that era of Disney when we were young, then we would have watched it a lot more. But since there was a lot more to offer and like a lot more options to watch, it wouldn't have been our first pick, especially since they definitely improved
Yeah.
since that one.
Definitely. I'm going to give some stats and stuff, and then we'll get into some more fun. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, this movie was released on December 21st in 1937, which before Adam talks about how bad the animation looks, because I'm sure he'll bring that up at some point. This was
There's one point about animation I will actually bring up. Other than that, animation isn't touched.
Yeah, this is, just from an animation standpoint, this is breathtaking. To see that they did this in 1937, this was in the middle of the Great Depression. And so when you put that in perspective, it's kind of like, wow, that's wild.
I believe that's the same year that The Hobbit.
Oh, I was
came
going to
out.
say,
It's like, no, Andrew, that was like
Fact, yeah,
2018.
If you didn't, I was going to.
Yeah, so that just still astounds me, but this was Disney's beginnings. They started everything here. Even though they technically were a company before this, they just did silly symphonies and animated shorts and stuff, like Steamboat Willie, the first short ever with Mickey Mouse. But this is their first delving into anything outside of just animated shorts and cartoons. So this is what really made Disney. In 2008, I believe.
I was right.
There you
1937.
go. It's ancient, man. In 2008, Disney's Snow White was named the greatest animated movie of all time, which is pretty cool. And I think that it's definitely earned it after
In what year was this?
2008. I mean, considering it's still a popular and well-watched movie almost 100 years later, I think it's somewhat deserved.
Name another movie, Adam, that you remember from the 1930s.
I'll admit, like, I agree that it is impressive that it is still talked about. I do believe it is only still talked about because of its successors, and it was the first. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
It's because it's the start of a legacy.
I think a lot of what. Exactly. Like, if you're going to watch Lord of the Rings, I personally believe Return of the King is the best. But you're always going to start with Fellowship. So it's always. It is, regardless of how good it is, it will always be talked about by being the first of what, at the very least, becomes amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree.
But even in 1937, when it was first released, it was a phenomenon. I mean, it was incredibly well received. The total cost of the movie was $1,488,422.74, and internationally, it brought in within the first year of its theatrical release, it brought in $7 million, $7,846,000. So it did really, really well in theaters. And the typical rule of thumb for movies is if you can bring in 3 times as much as you spent on this animated film, then it's a success.
As you spent,
so it's yeah. So it did much more than success.
That budget doesn't seem like a lot by today's standards.
No, but back then.
But back then, that's
in Great Depression era. That's
exactly.
Yes.
They had to ask for loan on top of loan from the bank, and by the time they asked for their last loan of like $250,000, $500,000, they were so worried that they weren't going to get the loan that they had to take an incomplete version of the movie and play it for the banker. And the banker, the only thing he said was, "This is going to be the best thing to ever happen to this world. Take the money," or something along those lines. So, like,
wow.
I mean, they had no problem getting the loans, but it's still just wild to think about that time period.
I mean, yeah, if they hadn't gotten that last loan, then Disney may not be what it is today.
Yeah, exactly. So Snow White was re-released theatrically 8 times over the past century. The last time it was re-released in theaters was 1993.
Because that was back whenever, it's the only way you could watch movies, is if it was re-released
It was
in theaters.
late 80s, early 90s that they started creating home videos that you could do home releases. So re-released about 8 times, which is pretty cool. The directors of Snow White were William Cottrell, David Holland, Wilfred Jackson, Larry Morey, Pierce, and Ben Sharpstein. Some of the voice...
These were the directors?
Yeah,
there were 7 directors in this movie?
Something like that, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Because each of them directed a different...
I was exaggerating, because that's actually hilarious that I was one off.
Yeah. Yeah, each director was in charge of a different portion of animation or a different department, and so they had to have a lot of people working from different angles. The voice actors and actresses, I don't recognize any of these voices, but after a couple movies, we'll start hearing some names that we hear a lot. Snow White was voiced by Adriana Caspillotti. The Evil Queen was voiced by Lucille Laverne, which I think we end up hearing her name 1 or 2 more times in some movies. The Prince, whose name has also been referred to as Florian sometimes, but I couldn't figure out why, was voiced by Harry Stockwell.
I was about to say that there is no indication of his name outside of Prince.
Yeah, I know. Doc was voiced by Roy Atwell. Grumpy and Sleepy were voiced
I'm
by.
sorry, Aaron.
Yes.
Who was the prince voiced by? I didn't hear it.
Harry Stockwell.
Okay.
Grumpy and Sleepy were voiced by Pinto Colvig. Happy was voiced by Otis Harlan. Bashful was voiced by Scotty Matrow. Sneezy was voiced by Billy Gilbert. Dopey was voiced, in air quotes, just the vocal effects were made by Eddie Collins, I believe. And the Mirror was voiced by Maroney Olson. And the Huntsman was voiced by Stuart Buchanan. And then this is the beginning of a Disney legend called the Nine Old Men. Were there? Yes, Adam.
I was just gonna say, if you had told me to guess, I would have assumed all the dwarves were voiced by the same person.
That's what I had initially thought, but it's okay to be proven wrong. But the Disney legend, the Nine Old Men, started here, and that is there are 9 animators that are Disney legends that were a part of so much of Disney's beginnings that they became immortalized as the 9 Old Men, and they were all present for the first full-length film. So I'm just going to name them real quick because you'll hear their names probably throughout later movies. So there's Les Clark, Mark Davis, who was the animator for Snow White as a character.
Not to be confused with Moore Clark.
Adam, that was painful.
I can feel the hatred going off of everybody.
I didn't even hear what you said.
I said not to be confused with Moore Clark.
Because his name is Les Clark.
Because his name was Les Clark.
Oh, okay.
Anyways,
We're
Mark
getting
Davis.
distracted.
Mark Davis he was the one that animated Snow White as a character. Ollie Johnston, Milt Kahl, who animated The Prince, Ward Kimball, Eric Larson, John Lounsburg, Wooly Reitherman, and Frank Thomas, who animated the dwarves. And fun fact, there's this really cute documentary on Disney Plus called Frank and Ollie. It's about Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, 2 of the 9 old men who were like best friends. And it just talks about like their journey and all the things they animated and stuff. It's so cute. So if you just have free time, go watch it. But so those are the 9 old men. We'll hear a lot about them throughout the later movies. So that's just some of the facts and fun names and stuff about this movie to get a little bit of history in there for you. So before we jump into the movie, Andrew, give me what do you think of the movie now that you've seen it again? Just a quick sentence or two. What do you think of it?
It was okay. I didn't hate it, but it's nothing incredible compared to some of the stuff we have out there now. But it was all right.
Yeah. Okay, Adam, go ahead and tell us what you think about Snow White now that you've rewatched.
I know you're going to regret this, but that's fine. I'm fine with this. I think it is not good. It is animation-wise. I will not knock it. I understand that was a lot of product at the time, and even with that, it still holds up fairly well. Like, I think things look better, but like it's still, like, especially like you said, during the Great Depression, competently looks very good. The story is garbage.
It still holds up really well.
The story is so bad. Like I'll get into more of it later, but like I think all the budget went into the animation, and they didn't focus on the writing as much. And this is also when they were still doing Hans Christian Andersen stories and were a little too afraid to deviate from the source material in any meaningful ways.
Actually,
but
this was a Grimm's Brothers fairy tale. Hans Christian, they didn't start getting into his until a little later.
Right. Regardless, though, it's a already established
same
fairy
principle.
Tale. Who is calling me and why? Sorry, continue. But yeah, no. Overall, like, I don't think it's that great. I think it gives us a lot of iconic characters that they're only iconic because they're in this movie. And for a musical that is 50% song, I think Andrew. I think there are only 3 that are actually good.
Abby, give me your thoughts on this movie now that you've revisited it.
Well, this wasn't like the first time that I revisited it in so long. Like, I've recently watched it before, and I'll say it again. I really like this movie. I think it's iconic, and I think it's charming, and I don't think that it's really popular because of the storyline. Like Adam said, there is a lot of gaps and stuff where I did find myself getting kind of bored. But for the parts where it is pretty eventful, I really like it, and it's, it's a classic that I think anyone will be able to recall and remember and just be able to talk about. So yeah, I'll give it like a solid 6 out of 10.
Hey, we're not doing rankings till the end.
I didn't know we were ranking.
I was saying, ratings come later.
Gosh, Abby. Awesome. Okay, thank you, Abby, for your opinions. I'm glad we have someone that is pro Snow White, because we're going to need it. Because it sounds like Adam has quite a lot of qualms.
Let's be real. It's going to be the 3 of you against me. Don't act like she's the only one.
Well, Andrew's kind of in the no man's land. He's kind of vibing, and I'm kind of in the same place. So my opinions after watching this a couple hours ago today was it's really cute. It's really charming. I am really impressed with what they did in the time that they did it. I do agree with Adam. There's a little bit of inconsistency in the storytelling, which it was their first time doing a full story, and they were also trying to do an adaptation of the Grimm's Brothers story, so it's not totally their fault, but there are still some inconsistencies. There were some moments that genuinely made me laugh, like I audibly laughed, and I was not expecting that at all, so that was fun. But then there were other moments where I was like checking my phone, like ready for it to be over. So kind of ended up in the neutral area with Andrew. Like, it's good. It's meh in some parts, but it's a movie. So cool. Well, I guess we'll get into the movie. So it starts with what becomes a Disney staple for a while, the opening of a book, the storybook opening. That is,
I'm gonna go ahead and throw my hat in and get hated immediately. I hate this style of credits. I like the book aesthetic. It looks like the book aesthetic is fun, especially the first probably 10 or so Disney movies that are just the opening credits are just it is names. The page turns, more names. The page turns more. I cannot. I start losing my mind because it lasts almost 5 minutes, and I'm just.
Well, that's how they did movies back then. They did the.
Forcing
I'm
you to
aware
see
of
the
that. It's whatever. But I am also bored. Exactly. Like it's a product of the time that does not hold up well. That I'm just like, can I was trying not to fast forward any part of this movie, so I didn't bias myself or oh well, you missed this one part that was actually really so. But yes, Abby.
I actually agree with you on the whole credits because I can't stand just sitting there and waiting. Which I mean, I get it. It's like you want to go ahead and give credit to the people that you're about to see the work for, and so, but it's just you sit there and you're like,
because I remember worst in Peter Pan. Because I loved that movie, but the beginning, it almost made me just never mind, I don't care. As just sitting there, I was waiting for something to happen.
I will say, there's a little note at the beginning. Did y'all see right before the credits? There's a note from Walt Disney himself, where he was thanking all the people that were a part of the movie.
Yes, I did find that cute.
It's either right at the beginning or right at the end of the credits, and I thought that was really sweet.
They're very beginning, I think.
I think so. So, anyways, you start with the classic opening of a physical book, which you can still find some of those books in the Disney vaults and in their where there's some buildings out in Burbank.
They used to record that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some buildings out in Burbank where I've seen in some documentaries where they will have showcases of historical Disney objects and stuff. And in one of them, there was a lady that was restoring the book, the physical book that they used for the book opening beginning of Sleeping Beauty.
That's what I was most familiar with.
So they definitely have those physical books in storages and in shows and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Is fascinating.
That's pretty cool to know that they use an actual book to do that and that they're mostly still around, I think. But we start off with that. Nothing better than that. Telling a book story to start with the book. And then after the book and the pages set up what's happening, Snow White has an evil stepmother who puts her in rags to make her less pretty than she is.
The opening. I'm so sorry. This is gonna happen a lot. Go ahead and prepare for that. The opening where it's like, once upon a time, this, that, and the other. It needed narration. I'm like, all right, cool. Now that this is over, we're gonna get like the narrator. Once upon a time.
The newer the movie
and
gets,
it was nothing. It was just sitting there, and I'm like, are we still in the credits?
The more modern the movies get, the better the openings are. Because in some of the earlier movies, I think even in Cinderella, like, I don't know if any of these Golden Age movies, these beginning movies, have vocal narration. Some of them probably do. I haven't seen them in a while, so I couldn't tell you. But I know as early as Cinderella have actual voice recordings of narrations.
I remember word for word the voice narration as they're flipping through the book, telling the story for Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
So
and that's more like, if it was that, I'd be way more okay with this. But like with this, I'm like, most of this stuff you could set up in film. I didn't need a preface to understand this high concept. It's Queen and the Princess. Moving on. You can set it up in film, and it was killing me.
Because also, a lot of...
I will agree, it needed a little something instead of just like the pages on there. Because I looked away for a second, didn't realize that it had like started narration, and I missed some stuff that Angela actually had to fill me in on. And I was like, "Wait, why is this?" She's like, "It's just that in the narration." And I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, you were."
Because also a lot of kids can't read when they go to the theater to watch this. It's like they don't understand what the heck is happening, and they're just like, "Wait, what's going on?"
For the target audience being as young as it is, it's very much like this is not. You don't need to do that.
But like I said, Disney learns pretty quickly how to even better draw in their audience from the beginning. And so that's just another example of the fact that this is definitely the first movie, because this is their first shot at doing anything like this. So they had to take all of the good and the bad from this and use that to continue to build on the legacy they created in Snow White. And one of the things that they did end up learning was that
I'm not gonna harp on very hard. But it's like, I understand this is a product of its time, and that they learned later on, all right, that didn't quite work. So I'm like not sinning the movie for it, I guess. But it is like, oof, it is noticeable nowadays.
Yeah. But it's definitely pretty apparent pretty quickly in Disney's filmography that they learned that wasn't enough to draw kids in at the very beginning. That they had a lot in the film to keep kids interested, but they needed to work even harder to get them hooked at the very beginning.
Because Walt Disney learns from his mistakes.
He does. He's very good at learning from his mistakes. So we'll see that. It won't take too long for us to start getting some more interesting intros. I'm actually pretty sure the next movie, Pinocchio, the next intro, I'm pretty sure the intro in Pinocchio is pretty cool. I don't remember though, but...
I've never seen it.
Okay, we'll get into that later.
I also feel like with its aesthetic, Pinocchio could get away with more of this kind of stuff, but I do hope at least narration is brought on.
But that's a conversation for the next episode. Anyways, so you open up, you hear about Snow White being the princess who's prettier than the queen, and the queen hates that, so she puts her in rags and makes her a maid, and is, a total drama queen about it.
We're not even going to talk about how they got into that situation. Like, she's her stepmother, so I'm guessing it's a very close to Cinderella relationship in that. Like,
it was a Grimm's Brothers tale. They all had evil stepmothers.
It's one of those things like the movie could have elaborated on, but absolutely decided it wasn't going to. And it's like
just let us imagine.
I guess it's not important to the story how you got into this, but like, yeah, whatever.
My vote is she killed him. But
the Wikipedia page says that Snow White's parents died when she was at a very young age.
Given her track record, agreed.
The Wikipedia page states that her parents died at a young age, and they say nothing else. So
how is a stepmother?
I
that
don't
implies that she
know.
adopted her and is not a stepmother. It's
Well, maybe Snow White was an ugly toddler.
I would have to imagine that the mom died early.
Probably.
being-
I'm sure Snow White was an ugly toddler.
I'm
'cause
thinking there was like a
that
marriage
doesn't
and then
answer the question.
she was probably more willing to adopt Snow White because she thought she would be ugly, so it would fit in.
Okay, let's just agree to disagree. We can
That's
have it
still
all up
not
to our
the
own
que-
theories.
Whatever. I'm moving on.
we all have our own theories, even though the right answer is she killed the husband. But whatever.
She's a gold digger. Anyway,
That's my. I'm sold on that.
so it says that as Snow White got older, she got more beautiful, and every day the queen would ask this magic mirror. She would say, "Slave in the mirror, come to me," and whatever else. And then she would say, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" You know, we all know this. Every child that's alive knows that phrase.
That mirror was so sick of
Although-
her crap. Just like this again.
Fun fact: most people know it as mirror, mirror on the wall, but it's actually magic mirror on the wall. And so that is a common misconception. Fun
What's it
fact.
called? Like the something effect?
The Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect.
Yeah.
That's a common one.
So there's one that happens
Mandela
a lot.
effect.
But this one random day when Snow White's being a maid, you know, what else? The queen comes in, she does her thing. She's like, "Yo, mirror, who's the fairest?" Which fairest means palest. So I don't know why she wants to be the whitest person of them all, but you know,
that's something we're not gonna
who even knows? But
Yo,
we
mirror.
hear from the mirror that Snow White is now officially more pretty than the queen, and the queen's not going to have that.
killer.
She's like, "Oh my
I
god!"
want to know what it was. What the one thing that pushed it over the edge was? Because, like,
Also, Snow White is
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like
I will almost never
Disney
get into
princess.
Disney ages because it never doesn't
very
get creepy
problematic.
if you get into ages.
Oh, very much so.
Especially
Um,
since I'm pretty sure the prince was like in his
yeah.
20s, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
Oh, quick fun fact for all you listeners. I think all three of y'all know this. But the queen, I don't know when this name was given, but I do know that this is officially given to the queen by Disney itself. Her name is Grimhilda. I meant to look that up in my research before.
I think I have
recorded,
heard of that, yeah.
but I forgot to. So we're just going to say I know that I've heard it. I'm
Sounds
pretty sure.
fitting. Wikipedia.
I'm
Research
pretty sure that Disney gave her that name themselves. But anyways, so the queen's all
To be
mad.
honest, the only reason I know that that's her name is because of Disney Villainous.
Oh yeah. Actually, no, it doesn't even refer to her as Grimhilda and Vilnius. I told you that, I think. But
I think the only way I know that is because of a podcast I listen to called Distracted.
Hey, shameless self-promotion. We're all for it. Yeah, so the queen's mad. She's being a drama
Subscribe.
queen. And then the camera pans, or they animate it down, whatever, to little old Snow White washing the steps, singing to these birds, because no animals are afraid of her, apparently. And this leads into the Wishing Well song, which I used to hate this song, actually. But I'm not opposed to this song anymore.
Completely forgettable.
It is forgettable, but it's like I enjoy it because
That's
this is the beginning of the titular Disney Princess I Want song.
And this is where they really try to flex on
I'll
her
give you that.
vocals.
It's passable, and I do like the call and response that it does give, but overall, I'm like, this is you. If anybody is ever, if I ever hear somebody be like, "Yeah, the Wishing Well is my favorite Disney song," they're a liar. First of all,
Or really old.
no, because
Um,
even then,
I do
I'm
like-
that's your favorite song over any of these.
Hey, to each their own. I do like, though, at the very end of the song when the prince jumps in to echo her and Snow White's all like, "Oh my gosh, who are you? Why are you singing to me,
Okay,
stranger?"
can we just say, first of all, this man is just riding along. He hears this little girl singing. He jumps over a freaking brick wall that's an enclosed area. He jumps over
Straight
it.
up breaking and entering. He's
Sneaks
straight
up.
up trespassing.
He sneaks up behind her, starts singing, and then wonders why she's scared. Just like, "Oh, sorry, did I frighten you? Little girl, what's
I will
wrong?"
admit, that is one part of the movie that actually really surprised me, is her appropriate reaction to, "Oh my god, stranger," and runs. It is immediately
Yes.
cut out as she turns the corner and does lovey-dovey eyes at the man.
Because then she realizes he's
quickest,
cute.
fear to love. No, because like at that point, it's like you're fucking man to wear lipstick because he's absolutely wearing lipstick. Just
He's
Okay.
I should talk about how.
It's like the same situation in Sleeping
No.
Beauty.
Okay, that was wrong. Don't you come at that song. I will fight you over that one.
That's different, and we'll get to that in that episode.
No, the song is good. I said the situation.
Okay,
was
whatever.
the same.
Anyways, and also, can we just say, throughout the entire movie, that dove or pigeon or whatever it was got more romantic action from the prince than Snow White did.
I mean,
and then it loved true love. I mean,
you're right.
I mean, it.
he made the dove blush. How sweet.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is
I
where
don't watch it for romantic.
Got a kiss from Snow White and the prince. That dove was really.
So this is where the
real,
"I'm Wishing" song
protagonist.
transitions into one song where the prince serenades her, and she immediately changes from fear into, "Oh my goodness, he's so pretty and he's singing to me. Oh my goodness."
Who are you?
So the prince sings to her, and she's
Who
all
are
like,
you? Nice pipes. Who are you, and why are you in my house?
so,
I want waffle fries.
exactly. So that is the introduction to the characters of Snow White and the prince.
There's a lot of lag.
There is a lot of lag.
That's
That's okay.
generous calling the prince a character and not a plot device.
Okay.
Ah,
It's a princess story. There has to be a prince. Duh.
Just if he had a line that wasn't singing, I would care more. But I'm
He
like,
did.
He did. That was
not
when
a character.
He did. He said, "Oh no, I didn't mean to frighten you." Like he didn't just trespass. Anyways, we're going to keep going with the story because we could be stuck on this scene for a long time. So
like-
Yeah,
This is
you're
just
right.
us.
I'll leave my prince rants till the end because
We-
he
we will
bugs me.
transition.
He bugs me a lot.
back to the queen, who's still all drama queen about this. She sends this huntsman who I've seen online that his name is Humbert, something like that. But I have no idea if that's accurate or if that's just a fan thing. Who knows? But anyway, she sends him to go take Snow White out into the woods to go pick wildflowers and then kill her. And she gives him this box that has become an iconic box that has a little heart on it. And she tells him to put her heart in the box and bring it back so that she knows that he killed her. Yes, Abby.
First of all, that's kind of dark. Like,
Yes.
I doubt that you're going to do it. So I want to see her heart. Like, I want to see that.
Oh, she
in
straight up
this
was like, "I know
box.
you're a coward, so you're going to show me that you did
I want to make sure you actually
kind of
kill her.
respect it. Like, no. I need proof. You show me you killed her.
And I respect his attempt
Oh,
later,
I
so
agree. It's,
we'll get to
it's
that.
pretty
it's a very strong movie.
Also, just the fact that she's like, okay, this one chick is prettier than me.
Kill
I'm
her.
gonna kill her. I'm gonna freaking murder her, man.
That's called
There is
Bane, and
no
that is a sin.
I will get into that later. But this movie has literally no chill. It is literally, there's an issue, murder.
I
That
mean,
is
yeah.
always the go-to.
Isn't that what
I was actually quite surprised by how dark
Yes.
this movie could get at times.
Y'all, this is Disney in its early days. Of course, every solution is murder, and of course, it's dark. It
Or
happens.
Snowflakes in the third.
It happens. I know. So the huntsman takes Snow White out into the woods, and she's picking flowers, and she sees a little baby bird, and she helps the bird up into the nest, and she's like, "Bye-bye." And then she turns around and sees the huntsman holding a knife, and she screams because that's her reaction to everything is screaming.
I would too.
And then the huntsman is like, "Oh, I can't kill you. I just can't. I'm so sorry,
With
poor
a knife.
princess."
That's kind of fair.
And he's like, "Oh my goodness, just run away. Go find somewhere to hide. The queen will kill you. She's the one that sent me." And so Snow White starts running and screaming, and her fear turns all the trees into monsters, and then she starts spinning in a circle and flops down on the ground and cries.
I'm
Okay,
gonna be real.
I
I'm
will
gonna-
say-
I'm gonna pause because I have a couple points about this.
I will
Okay.
follow up from that.
So the huntsman thing, yes, absolutely. So the huntsman thing, I think, is where they are at this point too afraid to deviate from the original fairy tale, because it had no business in this story. It served nothing. You could have literally had the queen do the exact same thing of knife, and Snow White runs. Boom, the exact same thing is established. You've cut out some of the time, so you don't need that. And it's just like the huntsman also is barely a character. He is there to kill her, does not do it, and we never see him again.
I know. I always wondered what happened to him.
He probably died. Just saying. When she found out.
He probably got straight up murderized. And then the next point that if I had to guess, this is what Abby was going to bring up, is the forest thing, because this is actually where I think the animation shines the highest.
Yes, they were really flexing on their animation with this.
Oh, it's great.
It is a very seamless transition from like branches to a hand that is grabbing her. I'm like, that honestly looks really good, and for a scared 14-year-old, this is exactly what I believe she sees.
Oh, I mean, seeing driftwood and imagining that it's a crocodile, like having your fear turn that driftwood into a crocodile, like that kind of stuff's so clever.
And I want to say, in defense of Snow White, if you're like saying she's being all dramatic and everything, and like later on she says, "Oh, how silly of me to make such a fuss," and first of all, again, she's 14. She's been living her life innocently, and she's just, out there picking flowers. And then suddenly she finds out she is so close to getting murdered, followed by being told that her stepmother wants her to die, like wants to kill her, and then she has to go hide in the woods for probably the rest of her life. So. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that she's scared and seeing things and like really confused. And there's so much coming at her at once.
Absolutely, I wasn't saying this is a bad scene. I was just saying,
but also in
the way that she moves her body is just very dramatic. But it's very on par with Snow White.
I've seen memes with it; it's hilarious.
That's the entire movie. She never doesn't have the princess arms going on. Her arms, if she is moving, are extended with her hand, her wrists up.
Yes, very much.
She's also like modeled after the Hollywood movie actresses of the time, like the hairstyle, the makeup, and everything. So that's very much how they would have had them act in that situation and at the time in the movie.
I just find it funny.
You can see it's a product of the time. Oh, it absolutely is, especially by today's standards.
So we get to create our very first segment of our show that we're calling Pouty Princess.
Oh.
And this will come back all the time. So, Pouty Princess. You can't be a Disney princess unless at some point in the movie you throw yourself onto the nearby the closest object and you cry. And most often there's going to be an animal next to you as well. So,
about a guy.
In this instance, well, it's always either about a guy or an evil stepmother. So, in this instance, Snow White throws herself on the ground after seeing all these scary trees, which, of course, we talked about that. She has a right to be scared.
I will give her points for not having an actual prop to throw herself on, so she just improvises with the ground.
Yes, but she makes up for it by the amount of animals that surround her whilst she's crying. So
she does scare them, though.
She does. She scares them.
Overcompensating.
Adam. So
I meant for the prop thing. I wasn't trying to be gross.
So she scares the animals away when she realizes they're there, and then that's what Abby was talking about. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make a fuss. I just got really scared." The animals come back,
rightfully so.
And then she sings "With a Smile and a Song," which is another one of the songs that I forgot existed.
But I will say, I like that one. I like that too.
It's got a pretty melody. I just forgot that the song existed is all. And so then she's like trying to figure out where she's going.
Why?
Like sleep and live. And she's like,
it's forgettable and it's boring.
Adam, save it.
So then she's talking to the animals and she's like,
I'm going to crap on this. Also, at this point in the movie, something started really bothering me. And and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. This movie can't decide if it's a poem or not. It cannot cannot decide if it is always rhyming or not.
Oh,
because
I've
a lot
always
of times
that.
Snow White will just be speaking and she's like, I can't live in a tree because then where would I be? And that's half the movie. And then it just
I gotta say, props to you for
stops
just
doing
coming
it.
up with
Like,
that.
like when the
Until it
evil
picks
queen,
back up
when the
again.
evil queen is casting her spells, absolutely rhyme that. That makes sense. Go ahead, go for it. But like when she's just talking and rhyming, I'm like, are you introing a song? What is happening?
You know,
Poetic.
I noticed that too, and it bugged me. One other thing that bugged me right around this time is that up till this point, Snow White's eyes have been closed for the majority of the time.
I know exactly why, because of the huntsman scene. When it goes close up on the eyes, that is the worst part of the animation. It's
Terrifying.
horrifying.
it's very scary, and they do that once or twice with the queen and with the prince too. It's like the eyes are a little scary, but you'll see
There's a couple where it's like I think it's
with the
intentional,
queen,
and
it's
other times
awful.
it's Snow White going in the eyes, and I'm like, get it away!
They find their pocket to live in for animating eyes after this movie though, because in Pinocchio none of the eyes are, as far as I can remember.
Agreed.
From this point on, I don't think they have issues with stuff not looking like it was animated correctly for whatever they were drawing.
Yeah.
So
Eyes are hard.
And this is one of those things that I'm like, it's absolutely a product of the time. I don't hold it against the movie,
but it's still
one of those-
scary. It's scary.
To its credit, I think it actually kind of works for this movie because it's such a dark tale. I think that it benefited the movie having the creepy eye thing, especially with the queen later when she makes herself ugly.
Oh yeah,
it
for
really
sure.
benefits
Yeah.
that. It makes her very unsettling. But yeah, I'm definitely glad they don't keep doing that.
Yeah, me too.
Because
Back to the forest scene though. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Snow White so badly in that moment, just being surrounded by woodland creatures and them all just coming up to me willingly. I can't tell you how many times in the past I've seen like some kind of animal and be like, come to me, like Snow White, choose me.
All I can imagine
be
though
my friend.
is just oh yes, there's the deer and the bunnies, and that's a badger, it's coming towards me. Oh, that's a bear.
I know. Every Disney princess is so calm. I would be like, oh, that's a whole raccoon. Like,
But I will say, one thing that I do admire about Snow White... I just got what you said. One thing that I do admire about Snow White is that after all of that whole situation going on, and, you know, where normally people would just, you know, kind of just wander aimlessly and be really probably depressed in that situation, she perks up immediately and is like, okay, let's do something about it.
exactly.
Let's find somewhere to stay. Let's just not get killed.
I know what'll fix my situation: breaking and entering.
Thank you for that lovely segue, Abby, and then kind of Adam. So this is when she's like trying to figure out where to stay, and she says, well, I can't sleep in a nest or in a tree or underground. And the animals are like, they perk up, and she's like, oh, do you know where I can stay? And they're like, yeah, totally. It's like a totally vacant house. Like, you can totally come stay here, and it won't be a problem at all ever. And so
Those
she's like,
animals know it is not vacant, by the way. They are like, no place you can stay, steal their home. Take it from them.
As soon as they hear the dwarves start singing,
They book it.
They leave. They're like, hey, we got her here. It's their problem now.
She's yours now.
Anyway,
We're here for
Alright,
you,
have fun.
sweetie. We got they're here. Go, 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 go.
So anyways, they take her to the cottage, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's like a little dollhouse. It's so cute. And they walk in, and she's like, look at all these cute little things. I love when she screams when they walk in and all the animals run away. And then she's like, look at this cute little chair. And they're like, oh, that's why you were screaming?
That's one of the things that I'm like, all right, that's a nowadays joke that I think really works.
It was so cute. Just the way the animals look at her, like, for real?
I love that she just immediately sees all the small things and assumes that it's children. It's a bunch of children living by themselves in the woods with pickaxes.
I love how she goes from...
I have to understand that.
I love that she goes from,
you go ahead and
oh,
go
they're
there.
children. They must be children. Everything's so small. And she goes, well, I wonder where their parents are. Oh, no, they must be orphans. Oh, the poor things. Oh, look, a pickaxe. Oh, the poor things.
We don't question the fact that it could just
That
be
is-
really
That
bad.
is, I mean, up until a certain point where she's going, I'm like, yeah, no, I would not assume. Oh yes, dwarves. It's like, yeah, children. oh my gosh, there are no big beds. These children must be that is a weapon.
Stuck in the
And
table.
then she goes, in a stocking too, and then puts the sock right back where it was on it.
I'll sleep on the ground. I don't care.
I also love how she was immediately like, I just broke and entered, but let me just clean. They'll let me stay.
She tries to justify herself. She says, if I clean...
Oh my gosh, can you believe the state they keep this house in which I was not invited?
And then she walks in, she starts judging. I'm like, look at how dirty this place is.
Also, she tells these animals straight up, hey, you're helping me clean. You're doing all of this.
These poor animals.
Exactly. These animals, we have a place for you. You're helping me clean. I'm what now? Girl, I got you here. What is this?
Let me interject real quick.
No. My part of this bargain is done.
The best part of the animals, every scene that has the animals, the best part is the turtle.
Yes, that turtle. I love it.
The turtle. Yes, the turtle.
He's the best.
I think the joke got overdone a little bit towards the end, but I think he was still he was the best part.
That poor turtle.
Honestly, I think that turtle may have been my favorite character in the entire movie.
He had more personality than half the characters.
Also, this is something I picked up on. I'm not sure if anyone else. Did y'all notice the friendship between the turtle and the little chipmunk?
Yes, they're so cute.
First of all,
yes,
he got shot.
Yes,
he got shot into his shell, and then they both looked at each other and just laughed. And then later on, when he's falling down the stairs, the chipmunk's like, "Come on, let's go." It was just really cute.
So I was gonna go ahead and say this brings us into,
and they worked together. Just clean laundry.
So this brings us into the next major scene, which is the song "Whistle While You Work," which has become quite a big staple of Snow White. Actually, this is one of the few songs in this movie that everybody knows when they hear it.
This is one of the really good songs, in my opinion.
It's a fun song. The thing I wrote down when I was watching this movie, I said, "Cute scene." There's so many cute things that the animals do while they're cleaning during the scene that you can tell the animators had fun with all these different sight gags and stuff. Like the chipmunk trying to get the spider web with his tail. There's just a lot of cute stuff that happens. I think this is one of the highlights of the movie for me, I think. Once you get past all the whole trespassing and all that.
I'm also this sorry, my mind's blanking. This song actually went down for me this viewing, which I didn't think it was. It happened. I'm like, oh good, I get to here's a little bit more fun, here's a little bit. I didn't realize that literally half the song is just instrumental, and it does not, it's not like an interlude in the middle. It's just, after about half the movie, it just cuts into musical and then stops. And I was like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I wish that they had done more actual vocals and lyrics to it, but
they wanted to get all of those sight gags with the animals cleaning and stuff in it, so I don't blame them. I understand where they were coming from. I do wish there was more lyrics. I agree with y'all. But I understand their reasoning.
And that's what I think one of the biggest problems with this movie is it is trying so hard to be a feature-length film, when in all actuality, it does not need to be. It should be a 30 to 45-minute short. Because if you look at the contents of a lot of this movie, it is them...
It's dragged out
kind of buying time.
Much.
It is a lot of either the same gag again and again, or it's like you're doing things that don't matter, but you're just doing them because you can. And that was what I'll get into, like, when I really noticed it later.
Well, I know exactly the song that you're thinking
definitely,
about when you really noticed that too.
Was it with the dwarves?
Part of the song, but it wasn't a song. It was
for me. The song was the washing song when they're washing their hands outside and stuff.
That's where it really clicked.
Scene.
But
I feel like you could have just gone without that one.
That's one of my notes. Is they have been talking about washing up for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then just like when they're exploring the house later on, like the next scene when they come and you realize that she's there and they're exploring the house and
that is the scene that I actually noticed it in. It's so long of there's somebody in our house. What are we gonna do? And it's literally about 10 minutes of that. And I'm like, after 5, I'm like, can we move on? I get it. You're scared. I get it. I do. But we are breaking no new ground.
Their footsteps were so annoying with the squeaks and everything. It reminded me of Cell.
Oh my
in
gosh!
Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, why was going
Just
that
how
memory of
annoying and
mine?
repetitive that one sound over and over is. It was, oh my gosh. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this movie to be over. Until I got to the next part that I'm actually like, okay, I enjoy this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's just, so unnecessary to stretch it out that long.
And again, they were trying to make a full feature film, and this was the first one. So I personally am going to give them some grace because they were trying to fill some time and make it work. But anyways, that's a really cute song.
For sure.
I've always been a fan of Whistle While You Work. But anyways, you immediately go into another song right after Whistle While You Work, where we're introduced to the dwarves.
Hi ho!
To Hi Ho, you
Okay,
see
that is
Doc,
probably one
Dopey,
of the most important or most iconic songs.
Yes, you're introduced to Doc, who is looking at the gyms, and Dopey, who's in charge of cleaning because there's not much else he can do. You see Sneezy, Happy, Bashful, and Grumpy mining, and you see Sleepy in charge of taking stuff back and forth. And it's really cute to see them. There's a lot of really fun visual gags with this scene, most of them with Dopey.
And
I will
this
say
is where I think the visual gags are done better because it doesn't like feel like the song is dragging out to let those visual gags happen. It feels like no, this is like while the song is happening, the visual gags are also playing out and they're fun.
And I will say, probably one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it works a lot better because.
Sorry, continue.
Go ahead, Abby.
Okay. I will say one of my favorite scenes in this movie, like it's something small, but it's hilarious when Dopey goes and he locks the cellar, or like he locks the vault, and then he just hangs the key right next to it. It's so funny, and it's just Disney knows how to do.
There's
just
so many
small little things.
There's so many good gags in this scene with most of them with Dopey, with putting the gems on his eyes and Doc hitting his head, and with him throwing the bag into the vault and going with the bag, and just a lot of really good stuff. I think this was probably the best way they could have introduced the dwarves.
Dopey is used best because throughout the movie onward, it starts to become like the turtle for me, where it's like, all right, I get it. I'm done with that. Let's move on. I do think this is where he is used best because it's not overdone, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah. This song and this scene.
I will agree and disagree. I consistently laughed out loud at Dopey throughout this whole movie. He is, I think, my favorite part of the movie is just Dopey being Dopey. He, I think, really helped me make it through the movie this viewing. But I will agree. I think he's done best in the hi-ho scene, but I don't feel personally that it gets too overused throughout the rest of the movie. I think I think they do it just about right because he's interspersed with the other dwarves doing their things as well, and then it'll be Dopey doing his thing. So because each dwarf is still doing their own thing and has their thing, that is Dopey's thing. So it doesn't feel too.
One thing that I am most impressed with is how they were able to give each of the dwarves their own personality so well. I mean, that having so much personality in a single animated character was not a normal thing in 1937. I mean, in all the shorts, most of the characters were a titular prankster or bully or whatever for whatever kind of cartoon it was. But each of these dwarves has such a different and individual personality that are still remembered now. That's really impressive to think about. Like,
can we talk about
I know Adam probably doesn't agree, but I think that that's just impressive to me.
Can we talk about who each of our favorite dwarves are? For each of our
yes.
favorite dwarf is?
Adam, go first because I know you have something to say.
I think Dopey is the best one, specifically because I believe he actually has a personality. Most outside of like 2 or 3 of them, I think most of them have a character trait or a gimmick, and that's it. Mm-hmm. They don't have real personality. They're not fleshed out characters as much. They are I'm the this one. I think the 3 that break that are Dopey, Grumpy, and Doc.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's I'm the guy. I'm sleepy, so I yawn a lot. I'm sneezy. I sneeze all the time. I'm bashful. I always blush. I'm shy. It's very.
I'm happy. I'm confused for Doc.
Very good. Very good.
Oh yeah, I think Grumpy. Like the thing, other than Dopey, Grumpy's probably my next favorite one because that's consistent throughout the
Same.
movie. It's just like everyone's like going along. Oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Like let's keep her. He's like, no, like she's don't keep her. The queen's gonna
He's
kill her.
the only dwarf that actually has a little bit of a character arc as well. Because he goes from not liking her to accepting her and then leading the charge to protect her.
And I love that. It's so sweet.
So
how
he's
it
the only
warms
one that
up
actually
to her.
has a story.
I'm not going to
I'm
not going to give my favorite character yet
It
because
absolutely is.
that was one of the things I was going to do after we talked through the movie was favorite characters and
You
such.
could have told us that.
Well, that's okay. You already started, so. But that's fine.
You
I do want to
literally
give a
asked
shout
us
out.
which our favorite was.
Whatever. I want to give a shout out to Bashful because I think he's great, and I love the way he says, "Oh gosh." I think it's so cute. But that's fine.
I think his character joke works one of the best because it's rarely him and Sleepy. It's not used all that much, which makes them like not get a lot of
think it's, like,
screen
3
time. Yeah,
times
it's
total.
not a lot of screen time, but it's still like okay, yeah, you're kind of fun with this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I love is actually the scene we were about to talk about. So after Hi Ho, which by the way is like the classic scene, like if you say Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, that's probably what someone's going to think of is Hi Ho.
This is what you're thinking of.
It is the
Oh, yeah.
Hakuna
This
Matata
is-
of the Lion King.
This is what made this movie. But anyway, Snow White ends up going to sleep up in their beds upstairs, and then you have this very long sequence where the dwarves figure out that there's someone in the house, and they are trying to figure out what to do about it. And they walk in, and they're noticing, like, hey, it's been dusted. The floor's been swept. The dishes are missing. And they're like, hey, someone stole the dishes. And they're like, no, they hid them in the cupboard. And
Also, I love the fact that they're not happy that it's clean. They're upset. They're genuinely like upset.
they're more confused than anything.
I've been working on this dust pile for 2 years.
Now, the one time that someone's
I love
upset
that
is
they
Bashful.
Immediately are worried about a dragon
I know.
having entered their house.
I think the one time anyone's upset is Bashful when he goes, my cup's been clean. All the sugar's gone.
I feel that.
But one thing that I like, just a quick line in there where Bashful's like, look at the goldenrods, and puts the flowers up in Sneezy's nose. And Sneezy's like, are you idiot? You know I'm Sneezy. Like,
Yeah, the one person you
he's like, I'm the one
I do
person
like that he called it out like, well, what do you think this? It's my name, which leads to one of the longest gags of, is he about to sneeze? And by the third time he almost sneezed, I'm like, I get it. There's still someone upstairs.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then they end up finally getting upstairs after sending Dopey up there.
Oh,
and
fine.
One other thing that I really laugh at a lot in this movie is when they send Dopey upstairs and he's like, go on, we're like trying to, like, he's
We're right behind
shaking, trying to hand
We're right
the
behind
thing. He's shaking, trying to hand the
At the
lantern. He's like,
bottom.
quit being scared, just
Don't
take
touch the
it.
candle.
Doc is a funny character.
Yeah, don't be nervous. So he grabs his hand and puts it, like, forces the candle into Dopey's
We're
hand
right-
so that his hand stops
So
shaking.
Dopey goes up there, and Snow White yawns very dramatically, which scares Dopey. So he runs down, and then they all run, and then they get scared, and there's a whole bunch of stuff where Dopey gets
They
stuck in
were
some pans, and
all
they
absolutely okay with Dopey getting murdered. I want to make that clear.
they
absolutely.
they probably
As
just
far
assumed
as
Dopey
they
was with
knew,
them.
whatever was upstairs was a witch or a monster and was going to kill them, they closed Dopey
Or a
in. And
dragon.
as he's trying to get out, they're like, oh, well, ah.
And he breaks the lock on the door.
they had already accepted that whatever it was had killed Dopey, and they were trying to keep the thing that killed Dopey
They
inside
got
the
Dopey
house.
ripped
No,
off.
no,
Rest in peace,
it was a good
anyways.
sacrifice. Oh no!
And somehow Snow White still didn't hear any of this. She really needed a nap, apparently.
I know.
I don't
So,
understand her at this point. I don't get it.
regardless, they get upstairs and they're like ready to kill her. Like they have all their weapons up and they're ready to kill her. And Doc pulls off the sheet and they're all like, oh, "Wait, she's pretty." And they're like, "Do we kill her?" She's
Also,
pretty.
Like I said,
Just
this
so-
movie
Stop
is always immediately to murder. They're like, well, murder.
So then she wakes up and she's like,
Time for
"Oh, the
something to
children
die."
are back."
Oh.
And then she goes, "Wait,
It's
you're
a
little men." And I'm
Also-
like, "That's so demeaning."
I love how much their noses look like potatoes.
That is so.
To the point where
Demeaning.
when they hear a noise and they hide, Grumpy hides in a potato sack and you can see his nose amongst the potatoes and it looks like a potato.
I love it.
So that's fun.
Actually.
But then she decides she wants
It
to
is.
figure out who each of them are, and she does, and the best line of the movie, "You must be grumpy." Best line in the whole movie, if you ask me.
That was kind of fun. I won't knock that.
So then they're talking, and
I also,
they're like, "Oh,
this is the
this
point
is the
where I'm
princess."
like, if you start looking at ages, it's very creepy
I
because
will
like
give
she's 14
props.
and they all have gray beards.
I will say one thing I thought about was like this could be taken
or
in a very creepy way. Like she's suddenly staying in this house with all these men, but also we can't appreciate the fact that they are super respectful to her, and they're just like, okay, you know,
well, and
They
she
all-
is
I
like,
will-
she is the
it
little
is no
princess.
shade. It
We
is-
are
it is
just
like,
leaving
hey.
her alone.
and as soon as they realize
So
that
they're all
she's
getting
the
desperate
princess,
for a kiss on the head. Then it's
Yeah.
when they realize that she's the princess and she's in danger because of the queen, they're like, well, everybody except Grumpy's like, okay, yeah, she needs a place to hide. Like, we'll let you stay here.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We're going to make sure that the queen doesn't get to you. And so then she runs down.
Especially once she mentions that she'll cook, they're very willing to
Oh
let
my
her stay.
gosh.
Hey,
She can make a pie. She stays.
they like them some food. So
That
then
was,
she runs
that's
down
what
the
got. That's
stairs.
the one that really got a laugh out of me.
She runs down the stairs dramatically because she realized, oh no, my soup is burning. So she
That
runs.
thing is crusted at the bottom of that pot.
Oh,
by the way. If it's been boiling,
Apparently
since
not,
was
because she said
asleep.
supper's not ready yet. Because then she lectured them about having dirty hands, and it's like, girl, can
What
you not
was
tell
that?
they've
It
never
was
taken a bath?
boiling over, not ready yet.
Well, and then she looked at them and she's like, go wash your
And
hands.
this is the most excruciating part of the movie to me because I'm
Actually,
like,
Adam,
there's
I'm going to contradict you.
nothing happening here.
I quite enjoyed this scene. This is the scene I had to write next to it so I would remember. I found myself actually laughing out loud at this scene.
I will say I like the scene. It's enjoyable, but also it bothers me how long it drags out doing the same stuff when it didn't have to be that long. Like with Dopey with the soap, they just kind of kept doing that, and
You
it
know,
kept
it
going.
never shows him getting the soap out too. So he must have died with that bar of soap in his stomach.
But
I
other than
believe it.
that, it is a cute
Yes,
I
scene.
think
but
if they
this-
had
this
stuck
scene
with her,
actually-
like checking the hands and be like, no, go wash up, and then the scene ended there, I would have been fine with it. It would have been fine, whatever. But
Mhm.
like, I didn't need the 2 minutes of her checking each individual dwarf's hands, them going outside being like, how do we wash our hands? Oh wait, this is how we wash our hands, even though I was literally just asking. And then like the
Well, see-
cornering Grumpy, I thought cornering Grumpy was fine, but at that point I'm like, I move on.
This scene actually bothered me a little bit. I did not enjoy it, but for the fact that she tells them to wash
And they
their
don't
hands.
wash their hands.
They go out, like you said, and are trying to figure out how to wash. Yes, they wash their faces. They brush Grumpy's teeth and give him a full intrusive bath. They just bathe him without consent, which is a problem in and of itself. So Dopey eats soap, but none of them actually wash their
How
hands.
have they survived?
They do everything but wash their
Yeah.
hands, and that
She
I was
didn't
just so
specify
focused
their
on
hands,
that.
though. She just said wash
Watching
up.
this movie, I was like, I can't. But she inspected their hands and nothing
Yes,
else.
I know.
Context
I
clues.
know.
Like I could not enjoy the scene because
This
of
scene
that.
did.
I was just like, this doesn't make
This scene
sense.
made me think of, like, I've always wanted to know how the dwarves got to that point. Like, how did they find each other? How did they, get to where it's just them living out there?
Get to the point where they'll bathe each other without asking.
That, too. Sure. But
Not where I was
nothing
gonna
else
go
seems to
with
be
that,
done
but
for
sure.
me.
Okay, because this just got uncomfortable. Thanks, Andrew. We're gonna move on. So, anyways,
You're welcome.
they get cleaned up, and then it changes scenes where the queen now has the box with the heart, and she's like, "Cool, he did it." And then she's like, "Hey, mirror, now who's the fairest? Like, Snow White's dead." And he goes, "Bruh, it's still Snow White."
I guess pig's
And she
heart
goes,
and human heart.
she's dead. And he goes, she's in the dwarf's cottage. And she goes, but I have her heart. And she goes, and
You're holding
the
a
mirror
pig's heart.
says, that's the heart of a pig. And she's like, oh, how dare he? And then instead of,
I know
mean,
and then the queen says, I know I didn't like her, but that's a little rude. And he goes, no, a literal pig. And she goes, oh, that huntsman.
and I would assume she tried to punish the huntsman but it doesn't show it.
How
It just shows
just
her.
done with the queen's stuff. the
I know.
mirror
He's
is.
like, dude, it's still
He's
her.
just, he does not care anymore.
He's like, it's still her.
He's
That's
like,
a
"Why
pig that
the
you're
freak
holding.
Do you
can
care?
tell he's just dead inside.
So, anyways, she ends up
I wanna
storming
unionize.
down the stairs, her cloak billowing. What, Adam?
The mayor at this point was just like, I want to unionize. I want a union. I need a representative.
That's funny. So she storms down the stairs, her cloak billowing behind her. She ends up in her laboratory,
Evilly.
very evilly. And this is where the introduction of a very fun silent character, the Raven. I like the
That was a
Raven.
crow.
I
Crow,
forgot this
Raven,
character existed.
I
the
enjoyed
bird.
the Raven.
It's fun. It's fun.
I
and
also
this
do
is-
want to bring up one point.
Okay, go for it.
That this is 50 minutes into the movie. I actually went back and checked. Whenever she starts her scheming, it is 50 minutes into this hour and a half movie.
Technically, her scheming started with the Huntsman.
Wow, I did not realize that.
But yeah.
No. Whenever she starts taking an active role.
Oh yeah, I know. But this is
And then I'll get into another point, time point later, but it's surprisingly very little input from the actual queen.
Yeah. Excuse me. This is the scene that scarred lots of children because this is where she turns into the hag.
Myself
Yes.
included.
This is the scary moment for lots of little children. And then it goes from the transformation, the scariest part, to
Nightmare.
one of the most fun parts of the movie, the silly song with the dwarves where they're dancing around and yodeling.
And this, for I think what Abby and Aaron felt for the wash up. I don't remember what Abby made it. I don't remember, but we're like, this is kind of fun, and it made me want to see how they like met each other. This is what I got. That this is like,
too.
okay, these people are friends. They are friends or brothers? ? But they have known each other for a while and have fun, and now they are kind of like, yeah, no, we're gonna do what we know how to with this other person. Like, we're gonna show them how we have a good time. And even Grumpy just playing the organ, like, clearly he knows what he's doing, even if he gets frustrated with the others whenever they're not hitting their cues or whatever.
Yeah. It's just...
Which they must have rehearsed it a lot for him to get frustrated with Bashful like that.
Seriously.
Don't ruin it. Oh, so that's a really cool organ.
That's very
And this
cool.
is a song that I
saw
always
that.
forget exists, but I absolutely this is one of the other. This is the third of the great songs in my opinion.
Yes. I
Because
love
I'm like, this
song.
is just pure fun. This song is
It
just
is.
pure fun. Lyrically, it's nothing, but
Also-
it really captures fun.
I never realized what they were actually saying until I was watching it last time with the captions on, and they were saying like dopes, like ho hum, the
the word-
music stuff.
Tune is dumb, the
The
words
words
don't
don't
mean a thing.
Yes,
Thing.
that.
Yeah.
Isn't this
A silly song for everyone to sing.
I never knew that, and I was like, oh, that's fun.
There's a lot of really good sight gags in this.
It gives me
sequence,
very
too.
very what is it? The whose line is it anyway? Like hoedown. It gives me those kind of vibes.
Oh, yeah. A little bit. I could see that. I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's a lot of really good visual gags in this scene. Of course, the most notable one is Dopey and Sneezy in the trench coat dancing.
I saw that and I started dreading it, and then the more it happened, I'm like, I'm feeling this. This is fun.
I mean, the one time I loved
Taking that
Sneezy
two
sneezing.
children in a trench coat.
Like, this is one of the times where I loved that Sneezy sneeze because the whole trench coat blew up and then Dopey shot out of it like a bullet. It was just a fun time.
Exactly. The
launches
one
Dopey
time, I'm
out
like,
of
that
it
actually
like a
paid off
cannon.
really fun. That paid off really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's just fun of little stuff too. I mean, when Grumpy's playing the organ and like the two halves of the seat are pedals, and so he has to like shift his butt back and forth
With his,
like while he's playing.
that
one's
I
fun.
found that hilarious. I actually I had
He
always
is
known
That is
it,
so
working
but like
those
I found that
glutes.
absolutely
Yes.
hilarious.
I bet that's a workout.
He does his glute workouts.
Yeah.
Also,
For
fun
sure.
fact: if it wasn't going to be such a trademark nightmare, we were actually considering putting clips of this song at the beginning of the podcast,
Oh, it would
kind
have
of
been
to
so
get to catch the
fun.
vibe. But we decided it wasn't going to be worth it.
Yeah. So just sing it in your brain every time you turn on one of our podcasts because that's our theme song, I suppose.
Right after this scene,
one more sight gag in this scene is when Sneezy is yodeling and his Adam's apple's going up and down and Dopey's following. That's another cute, fun little one. Continue.
Dopey is just mesmerized.
Okay.
Whoa.
Before I get to my point, one little character that I do like is the Fly. He only shows up a few times, but he's cute. I like it.
I almost said Adam was the Fly because he's irritating, but I decided not to.
Dang. I was gonna say
the tone for
what
10.
I was gonna say is like leading into the next scene where they tell Snow White to do something, and then she's like, "What should I do?" And they're all so adamant on love story. Like we're these grown men. We're living through you now.
No, that was Bashful that said love. One of them said tell a story. The other one said make it true. And Bashful said, how about a love story?
Well, but then the rest of us like, oh, did he give you a kiss? Was he handsome? That kind of stuff. They're living through her now.
Well, they're obviously never going to get love.
They were absolutely living vicariously through
There's
her.
7 dwarfs living by themselves in the middle of nowhere. Where would they find girlfriends?
There's 7 dwarfettes out there somewhere for them.
That's the sequel I want, the 7 dwarfettes.
They said,
I hate it so much.
I can't make that joke.
No more of this.
But that the scene Abby was talking about leads into Someday My Prince Will Come, which is another kind of forgotten song, but this is like the second half of her I Want, if you kind of put together the I'm Wishing and
I think this is the proper part of the I Want song.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I remember this one more. I don't personally like it.
I'm a big fan of this
very
song.
basic.
I like this song a lot. I think it's really pretty. I mean, I know that a lot of people have issues with the vocals of the voice actress that plays Snow White, but I like it. I think it's a pretty song.
It was
I'm not a fan.
It was very
of the
unique.
voice actor.
I'll give it that. It was very
I'm not
distinct.
a fan of this song or the voice actress.
Yeah, and a lot of people aren't, but I still think it's a good scene.
Her vocalizations is another product of the time that this was made in as well, because that's just how a lot of people did singing, and with that vibrato and very high pitch and everything.
Yeah. And it's something that you can always recognize as Snow White. Like you hear that kind of the vocal singing, you're like, oh my gosh, Snow White. That's what you think of. So it's like almost her trademark.
I mean, while yes, that's not necessarily the best thing. It's not, because it's not oh yeah, Snow White, as much as it is yep, that's Snow White, all right.
I guess it depends on who it is.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So anyways, after our back-to-back songs by the dwarves and Snow White, we then transition back to the queen in the castle, where now that she's this old, scary hag, she now makes a poison apple, and she decides to put Snow White in sleeping death, which
I also
made clear.
100% believe this scene and the old lady scene should have been combined together. They should have just been one scene, and not like you did not need to separate them, because it just makes it more like, how long are you gonna take?
Especially with the fact that they had like 1 or 2 scenes of her just walking through the woods before she got to the cottage.
Yeah, there's definitely some dragging out. I'll give that. But she makes the apple, and she's going to put Snow White in sleeping death, which she makes clear is not killing her, but it's essentially she's dead. But then she says multiple times she'll be buried alive.
Which does get kind of dark.
That
she's
is
talking
dark.
about, like, I'm not going to kill her. The people that she's, hiding with, they're going to be the ones that kill her without even knowing it.
Yeah.
That, I think, like, in a story today could be much more interesting and, like, actually really explored. But, like, for that, I'm like, yeah, no, that is kind of dark. That is very dark.
Yeah, just a little bit. But that's okay. And then she ends up making her way to the cottage, and she tries to give this apple to Snow White, and the birds can tell that she's evil, and the birds and the squirrels start attacking her, and Snow White's like, oh, stop attacking this poor old lady. Brings her inside. Adam, go ahead.
Which, how dare you call her old right to her face?
Right. They absolutely call her old right to her face. Like, she is like, oh, what a sweet old lady. All right, first of all, rude. But I also want to point out, because I checked at this point, I'm like, okay, cool, the plot's finally kicking in, the main conflict is happening. There is 20 minutes left in the movie at this point.
Well, this is kind of the big finale of
It
it.
happens way too late in the movie.
Also,
Exactly,
Why would
and that's
you
one
let
of my
some-
problems with the movie in general is that it. Sorry, you go ahead, Abby.
no, you finish.
All right, one of my problems with the movie in general is that it's like it does not have actual conflict until the finale, until like the end, like the big thing is like it is just her sitting in the woods for almost an hour, and then stuff actually happens. I'm aware stuff happens in the woods. I'm obviously exaggerating, but it's where I really emphasize this should have been a 30 to 45 minute short.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Also, stranger danger.
fact
Why
that-
would you
that,
let this woman in your
Until
house?
she eats the apple, this movie spans like 2 days.
Yeah. Which a
Yeah,
lot
to
of
both
the
those
Disney
points,
movies don't.
That was
Go ahead, Adam.
okay. I was just gonna kind of agree. Like, I do find it funny that Grumpy was specifically like, "Don't now. She's a clever one. Don't let anybody in." Got it. Oh no, the birds are being mean to the old lady. Get her in.
Yeah.
Especially a creepy old lady who's looking through your window saying, "Hey, what you making?"
I
You
know
want mac?"
that always freaked me out. I
Whoa!
was like,
I wish we were using a video because I could straight up I have a visual gag where she's just, "Hello there."
yeah,
Just rises up in
she
the
really
Oh,
window.
does. It's kind of
gosh.
creepy. It's kind of creepy.
Want some candy?
I always liked watching her
Very
make the
creepy.
pie, though. I did. Seeing her make the pie is nice.
The pie always made me hungry watching that. And I like seeing the birds helping out, and that was really fun.
It's cute.
Also, Snow White was talking about making pies, and if the queen's original plan went off, she would have just killed all the dwarves because she was gonna be like, "Yes, I need an apple pie. You're right. Put this into a pie. Wait, dearie, no. Oh no."
But she does specify, like, "Hey, try a
You
bite
really should
first."
taste it first to make sure. Oh no.
She does, but what if
Yeah.
Snow White's like, "Well, I've only got one apple. I need to make it last for the pie." We've already established. I don't think Snow White's the brightest, so I do not doubt that she would absolutely just, "Nope, I'm good."
She's only 14. She hasn't had a lot of life lessons yet. We'll give her that, I guess.
I'm not accusing her of much, but that's fair.
And again, the fact that the queen is jealous of and wants to murder a 14-year-old
Yeah.
is the plot of this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, anyways, the queen in disguise gets inside the house, and then it's like, well, actually, this is a magic apple. This is a wishing apple. You take a bite, and all your wishes will come true. And Snow White's like, oh, okay.
I would not have taken a bite of an apple that her crusty old hands were literally all over. Like, she was rubbing it, caressing it with her hands.
I have
feel
to
like,
say, this
no.
is one of the things that I actually bought. Because I believe in a world where you can sing to animals and they become your friends and help you with chores and cleaning, you could absolutely believe that there is magic apples that will grant wishes.
This is also,
Yeah.
this is
I
also
don't
a
think it's
universe.
that much of a stretch to believe that somebody would be like, oh, okay.
It's also a universe where an evil queen turns herself into an old hag. So I guess anything's possible.
Mhm. Also,
Exactly. That's kind of like, and you live with that
The
woman, so
magic
you have
actually
to
exists in
know
this
at least something's up.
props to her to be willing to turn so ugly because she knew that it's like the last thing that anyone would expect her to do because of how obsessed she was with beauty.
Yeah.
Little did she know it would actually be the last thing she would ever do.
Yes, and we'll get to that quite soon. So as soon as they got the old hag inside, the animals were
I have
like,
things
"Oh,
to say
crap,
about that."
We can't do anything. So the animals start running, and they get to the dwarves.
It's really heartwarming how concerned the dwarves get for her. Just like, oh no, we gotta go home, you know that kind of.
Yeah, it's very sweet, especially to see Grumpy.
It's
leave.
absolutely a stretch that they could figure out what it was, but I'm also like, yeah, movie needed to happen. I'm not gonna.
Well, the only thing in their lives at this point that isn't
Yeah.
right where they are
That's what
was Snow White.
You just kind of let it slide.
So, I mean, it
Could have
probably
been a
wouldn't
wild
take-
animal attack. Who knows at this point?
I mean, I guess. But they end up racing back to the cottage, and right before they get there, you see Snow White take a bite. Well, you don't see it; it's off screen, but you hear her say, "Oh, I feel strange," and then you see her arm on.
It's
the
a
floor with that
weird
one.
censored thing. Like you would think she was stabbed with the way they wouldn't actually show it or her body.
Yeah, it just showed the queen panned down to the queen's feet, like the floor next to her feet, and
Exactly.
then
It was weird. I'm like, it's
really
biting
weird.
an apple. This is the most PG thing you can do.
Yeah, especially considering they showed the transformation of the queen too. Like I was a little confused by that.
And they wouldn't show her body on the ground, but they'd show her hand, and it's like we already know.
If it was like, oh, she's horribly mangled, that'd be one thing. But they show her in the casket later, and she still looks fine.
Yeah.
But no, it can't get too graphic.
So the second Snow White is dead or sleeping death or whatever.
What's next? Eating vegetables?
The second Snow White is dead, the queen runs out, and the dwarves see her, and they chase her, and it starts raining because why wouldn't it be raining? And the queen climbs up.
Drama.
The queen climbs up the hill, up the mountain, and then she gets to the top rock, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm trapped," because the dwarves are climbing behind her. And then she sees a stick under a big rock, and she's like, "Oh, let me."
And she thinks time to
She's like, "Let me crush the dwarves. That'll be
Time
fun."
for physics to work for old granny.
So she starts. So she starts to use the stick as a lever, and just when it looks like she's about to get it, kaboom! Lightning strikes the rock,
Oh, physics betrayed
and
old
she
Granny.
falls, and the rock falls after her, and we can only assume what happened with her and the rock. And that is the end.
Straight up, God wanted her dead. God
He said,
wanted
"Just
her
stay
dead,
down."
or else he would not have struck the rock that she was at and fell. It wasn't even like a oh no, the thing snapped and now let's give it lightning, divine intervention struck the rock as she falls to her doom.
I mean, she was.
I have to say, this is actually one of the more well animated scenes. In my
Definitely.
opinion.
Yeah.
The lightning hitting and everything after she falls, and such a great way of telling the viewer that she is dead without showing anything is just the two vultures starting to circle around.
Yes.
Down
That I
her.
100% agree with.
Beautifully,
Like that, don't show, absolutely not. But that was
that
agreed.
was like one of the few things I didn't really take notes. That was one of the few things that I made a mental note of. That I was like, this has to be mentioned.
Because I really like the
Yes, Ed.
symbolism of the vultures, because that's how the animals were able to tell that this witch or this old lady, she is not here to, sell apples or whatever, because they saw the vultures, because the vultures started following the witch when they realized she's about to kill somebody. So we're going to go follow her. And then the animals saw the vultures and they're like, oh crap. And so that's when they go and get them. And then they start following the witch again when she's being chased, just like, let's see how this goes. And then, they go down after her after that. So
The vultures were like, oh, this lady likes murder. We're going to have something to eat later.
So I really like how they added that, just kind of showing someone's going to die nonetheless.
I think it's the cherry on top that
Mhm.
she died while being ugly. She was so obsessed with being the most beautiful person in the land, and she died while being an ugly old hag.
Oh, yes.
I definitely agree.
She
It's
died
kind of
showing her
poetic
true
justice.
colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the queen has come to her end. Snow White, then, of course, is still dead. I forgot to mention this earlier. At one point, we cut back to the queen, and it shows that she sees that there's an antidote, and it is love's first kiss. Because it's magic. It's a magic poison apple, so what's the antidote? Naturally, love's first kiss.
Because why
I
wouldn't
mean,
it be?
it makes sense. So
I love how she's like, huh, not likely.
I know, and
She's immediately like, no way.
she's like, I doubt that she would ever kiss me.
I know it's supposed to be her like doubting actual love, true love, or whatever, but it absolutely sounds like she's like throwing shade at Snow White, where she was like, "True love,
To be
she will
fair-
never."
To be fair, Snow White is still 14. How many people know true love at the age of 14?
That's you know what, that's
and
fair.
it could also be tied into the fact that she thought that there wouldn't even be a chance for a
Because
love
she
first
didn't know
kiss
anybody.
and also because she would be buried. she didn't know that they'd keep her in a glass coffin.
They did,
Like
yeah.
above.
She
the
was
ground.
not planning
They're
on her
she
being
won't have
kept
a
above
chance.
Okay, that's a good
ground.
point.
Because I think she actually mentions that.
I
Well,
definitely think it was
mentions
more
that.
supposed to be if she didn't believe in love, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it could
but
have been both.
it certainly
you know?
helps that they kept her in a glass coffin above ground. So because it said something like they
They
felt that her
couldn't-
beauty was too much to be buried.
Yeah, they're like they couldn't stand.
I still
to
have
bury
some
her.
issues with the glass coffin. that I'll get
I
into in a
agree.
minute.
It's all
weird.
nice until she starts decaying.
Well, but she's not actually dead though.
But they didn't know
Because
that.
it shows the passage of seasons. It shows the passage of seasons while she's in there. So months and months have gone by while she's in this glass casket. So first off, she would have suffocated, even if she was still alive. She would have run out of oxygen.
It does show them opening
Second,
it a good
once
bit.
she did,
so I
she
think
would
she's-
start decaying.
I think she's okay.
And
in that.
well, all right, fair, but still, just laying there, not getting baths, not
Okay, you
not
guys.
changing clothes. She's gonna have all kind of grossness all
I
It's a
mean,
over.
fairy
her.
yes,
tale.
but also she didn't have anything to eat. I think that's the bigger
Not a
problem
single
here.
one. Right. That too.
Yeah.
Also, the problem of the prince just coming up saying, "Oh, here's a dead girl. Let me kiss her."
Bro,
The fact that
that
the dwarves just allowed him to come up and kiss her, like they don't know him, they don't know who he is. He just walks up. They're like, "Oh, hey, you here to mourn too? Cool."
if it was
Oh,
even a,
sure,
oh, let
what
me
are we
pay her
doing?
my respect, and he like kisses her on the hand, it would be a little more like, yes, no, we also understand. Maybe even on the forehead, like a little far, but sure, whatever. Straight up lips, straight up like,
Yeah,
hello.
the book doesn't say love's first kiss on the lips, with passion. No, it's just love's first kiss could be on the hand, on the forehead, something like that. It doesn't have to just come up and kiss this unconscious girl
Yeah.
on the lips. It's so
Yeah, I had
weird.
this
For
entire
all
time,
intents and
we've just
purposes,
been
as
roasting
far
the
as
crap out of this
all the
movie.
dwarves knew, she was dead.
Exactly.
Yeah. In the end, it's a fairy
So he was
tale,
not
and they made
kissing
it
an
work
unconscious
magically.
girl,
but
he was kissing a corpse. Sorry, I'm done.
No, it's okay. Scientifically, yeah, it's a little disturbing, but luckily it's animation, and so they were able to make it
Yeah.
magical, like the fairy tale's supposed to be. The prince comes, and they have love's first kiss, and then Snow White comes back.
Before
and-
we get to that, sorry. One thing that I never noticed that was actually made me almost tear up was during the funeral scene when they were in the house, like in the cottage, and they were like first mourning and they were all crying, and then like you see Grumpy break down, you see all of these characters just mourning the loss of their friend, and I never realized how emotional that
Dopey.
scene was. I never realized it was so sad.
And there's not a lot that happens there animation wise, and there's no vocals, but that's
Dopey
a powerful
just
scene.
fell apart.
It was. I started tearing
I
up.
will
and I
agree.
was like,
That
I
is
was
one
not
part that I'm like,
expecting
no
that.
notes, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Until it does the narration, the text narration thing again. That's like, oh yeah, and I'm like, you could show this through different things. It said, no, they built a coffin for her and felt she should be kept above. I'm like, I didn't need an explanation for that, but sure.
I think the explanation actually helped me personally.
Yeah,
Talking about
I
how
thought
the
it was
prince,
fine.
It's still just a weird
talking about how the
choice.
prince was searching for her, and
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, I wasn't bothered by
Yeah,
it.
me too.
But anyways,
You know what
the
you could
prince
do
comes and-
instead of that? Have scenes throughout the movie of the prince searching for her. Like, I have to find that woman again. Give him
Instead of
any sense of
unnecessary
agency and
searching
character.
for time.
Sorry.
That's okay. But anyways, the prince
I
comes.
hate the prince.
and-
I'm going to be real.
Really, Adam, I couldn't tell.
the prince was the least.
Okay, let me get into it. Let me get into it.
The prince had no part in this movie at all, except he kissed her. That's it.
He was a-
That's the only blow.
He was a plot device. But,
He was a plot device.
yeah.
Like I said at the beginning,
He
you all
comes and
criticized
kisses
me,
Snow
but whatever,
White.
you know.
I didn't. I laughed.
He comes and kisses Snow White, and she comes back to life. And then they go to the horse that he rode in on, and he hoists her up onto the horse, and he carries her into the sunset after kissing each of the dwarves' heads that he had to pick up and hold them because they were short. That was kind of funny. And they ride off into the sunset, and you
That was
see
kinda
the
cute. I
castle
kinda
out in the
liked
clouds that they're going to, and then you see the book closing.
nice that
Which
she
is-
actually,
They're going to heaven. She's actually dead.
you know, that poor girl has been through so much. I'm happy that she got a good happy ending and everything. Just saying, yeah, now over here you're not trying to be killed. You're not, you know, being poisoned. You can just live in my castle, girl.
I mean, this is the beginning of many, many happily ever afters. I think it's okay. I'm here for it. I'll take it. So, but they finished by closing the book, which mirrors the beginning.
I'm not gonna visit Andrew's theory of it being heaven because that makes a lot more sense than it should.
We're just
Oh,
gonna.
no.
There's theories out there about that.
Wait, don't do that to me. Oh, what the heck?
Oh, I'm so sorry for ruining it for you, Abby.
Well,
I'm speechless at the moment, so we're just gonna say that was Snow White. They bookended it with the physical book. I'm a big fan of it. So that was I personally
Very
think
good.
It was a
Like
fun
that.
movie. Fun movie. I like the way they ended it, and that they literally bookended it with book. Sorry, that was a bad pun.
yeah.
Now we're gonna do. We're gonna go around, and I want each of y'all to tell me your favorite character, song, and scene from the movie. So we're gonna start with Andrew, which I know we did a little bit of that throughout, but let's just like solidify it.
Okay. My favorite character was Dopey. I always loved him as a child, and I still love him today. He's my favorite character, followed closely by the turtle. My favorite song is either Hi Ho or the Silly Song. I'm not really sure. I think Hi Ho edges out the Silly Song just a little bit. What else were we?
Scene.
Favorite scene. Yeah. My favorite. I'm gonna have to go with my favorite song being Hi Ho, and my favorite scene being in the Silly Song when they're all dancing and having a good time, because it's just fun to watch. Like Aaron was saying, and Adam, you were saying this too. There's lots of visual gags in that with the dwarves, and you can tell they're all very close, and if they aren't family, they're a found family, and they are all very close and just like to have a good time. And I think I like that scene the best.
Yeah. Adam, give us your favorite character, song, and scene.
All right. So, surprisingly, my favorite character is Grumpy. I think he actually has the
Not
most
surprisingly at all.
personality out of all of them. Like outside of Dopey. Okay, I feel like I'm being attacked now, but whatever. But I feel like you said, Andrew, earlier, he actually has a character arc going on, and I think what's great. Also, he would be on Reddit because he at one point straight up says, "Women is poison. All women is poison." Straight up, he's the most toxic kind of man now.
I don't know. Get him.
I think that's hilarious. I just think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. But again, like he is. At first, I was quick to write him off as, you know, the grumpy one. But then I'm like, no, you actually do some interesting stuff with him. So I think he is, in my opinion, the best character. Favorite song. So I think Silly Song is a better written song. But I think Hi Ho sounds better and is a more iconic song. And I think I am going to go Hi Ho. My favorite scene is when God kills the evil queen. And if I'm not allowed to use that one, then it's...
Praise the Lord.
One, because that scene actually made me laugh out loud. I absolutely busted my gut at that for the complete wrong reasons.
I forgot that it was lightning that took her out. I thought the stick just broke and she fell off the cliff, but no, it was lightning took her out.
But I think the real one for me
too.
is whenever the dwarves are rushing back to the cabin after Snow White, after the animals are grabbing them. They're because that is an actual real sense of urgency that they get. And had I not seen this movie and know this movie, I would have been like, they're going to get there in time, because of course they are. The main character's not going to die until she bites the apple. Yeah. So I'm like, nowadays, I do think that actually would have been a fantastic subversion of expectations, that.
Oh, I can't
I'm like,
imagine.
all right, I'll give you
I'm
this.
sure people
And I think,
watching
like-
this for the first time. Sorry, Adam. Go ahead and finish.
That was it.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I'm sure people watching this for the first time in 1937 were like on the edge of their seats at that point.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, Abby.
Surprisingly, I actually did give this some thought. I think one of my favorite characters is probably the Queen, because I like how she's written. I like how every scene that she's in, I'm not bored. Like, it means that something is going on. She had a very, solid resolve. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to kill this girl because she makes me feel ugly.
I would absolutely agree with that. Her voice actress absolutely
Very
knocks
well.
it out of the park,
Yes.
and has so much fun with it. I think my only gripe with her is her motivation, but even then, I'm like, you're evil. I don't need it that much.
But I like both versions of her. I like her fabulous version, and then her, the ugly one too, where she's just like, I'm gonna kill you now. But
The fabulous and hagulous.
yes,
There you
but
go.
I did like her character, and I like how, like, again, probably for the reason that anytime she was on screen, I wasn't bored, or I was like, oh heck, what's gonna happen now?
Stay hagulous.
Favorite song, I think, I also have to agree. Favorite song is Hi Ho. It's solid, and I like it a lot. Favorite scene. It's probably tied between the silly song scene or the one where the Queen's making the potion. Because I always thought, even when I was little, that part was so cool. When she was mixing it all up together,
Cool
like,
and
all the visual stuff,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's so cool. And I always thought the potion looked good. It looked like some kind of soda to me or something.
Soda.
But yeah,
I won't drink it. No, sweetie, no, you don't.
I don't think you want that soda, Abby.
I wouldn't do anything. I really but I think it's a tie between those two for me.
Okay, cool. My favorite character is actually Doc. I think Doc has such a fun personality because
I
he wants
agree.
so badly to lead the men, but he's also so unsure of himself a lot. I think he's just really fun.
He is
The
one
voice
that I
actor did a
did
good
not
job.
remember him having a character, and I do think while I do think his stutter did get kind of repetitive, it had some of the funnest wordplay and word entanglements, and he had way more of a character than I remember. So I will absolutely agree with that. He was a surprising character for me.
Yeah, like when he was doing the what are you and who are you doing? I mean, who are you and what are you doing?
I like how Grumpy kept telling him to say things, and then he would be like, no, wait, no.
That was a bit I loved.
Grumpy took advantage of the
Tell her to
stutter.
get out. Yeah, get out. Wait, no, we wanted to stay.
And that's very admirable of Grumpy to try to do that, but it's also very mean. So yeah, Doc is my favorite character. My
That's
favorite
not admirable in the slightest. It's
Exactly.
just messed up.
Exactly. That's what I said. Duh. I think my favorite song is probably the silly song, the yodel song. It's just so fun. I love listening to it. I could listen to it all the time. My favorite scene is actually Whistle While You Work. I love and have always loved watching the animals clean.
It does make me want to.
I don't know if
be
it's
when I
just
watch
because I'm
that.
OCD. I don't know. But watching the animals in that scene just fills me with joy. And I just like it. So that's my pick. Now I want to know what y'all's least favorite part of the movie was. If there's any scene or part that you feel like the movie did not need.
The
Let me know.
washing scene.
Adam, I'm going to ask you to be very.
Adam got.
I'm going to ask you to go for a small.
How
part.
brief do I have to be?
Very brief. Be as brief as possible.
One scene.
Because
One scene.
I know that you had a lot of qualms with this movie. So we're going to start with Adam. Try to keep it brief. Please.
All right,
just
I'll
one
keep it
scene.
brief. Half the movie. Next. If real talk, the one scene is the washing scene. I don't think it's necessary. Like it's not. It's like I understand they're trying to have like fun with like, oh, they're doing this, but you get it way better in both Hi Ho and the silly song, and it's like I don't need this. You're just killing time. Move on.
Yeah, I can see that. Abby.
The washing scene, or the scene where it kind of pans through and shows how all of them are sleeping. whenever Snow White is sleeping in their beds. That
I always liked that scene. I thought it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I do like it a little more.
It was
than the
cute.
washing
It went on
scene,
too
though,
long.
so that's why I'll say probably the washing scene.
Yeah.
Andrew?
I think the huntsman scene, honestly, like Adam was saying, you don't need it at all. You could just have the queen talk about it as exposition, like it happened off screen when she gets back with the heart. Be like,
Or
yes, he did
even
the
have
thing.
the queen like be like
Or
in
even
her
not-
room or whatever, like I must find a way to dispose of Snow White, as it cuts to outside as
And then
she's
Snow
hearing
White
it like, oh my,
hears it
and moves
and
on.
then runs away. Like you didn't really need the huntsman in this movie.
In defense,
Like I'm sure in some version of Snow White, the huntsman is crucial, and you could, flesh him out better. But in this instance, you don't really.
I will argue with that, saying that I really do like the scene with the huntsman because, first of all, it adds another character, and I like how it adds, more, character to it. And I thought that it kind of made the stakes go a little bit higher. Instead of the queen trying to kill her, it's like the queen didn't want to dirty her hands, so he's over here like she's trying to do this to you, so please go.
She didn't want to involve herself physically until she had to.
Yeah.
And I get that, but like you were saying, it added more characters. One, this movie didn't need any more characters. It had enough that it didn't know what to do with. And two, he wasn't anything. Like, it didn't go anywhere with him. Even if you saw the huntsman being punished for what he did, if he was the crow, I would find that scene amazing. And it would be fascinating to watch her turn him into an animal for failing her.
Oh my
Instead,
gosh,
nothing happens.
Theory.
He's just not there anymore.
I have a new theory.
That would be kind of cool. That would be kind of cool.
That she turned
That
him
would be
into
dope, right?
Headcanon accepted, like whole.
Oh yeah,
That's why the crow is so scared all the time.
makes sense. I'm down. I think my least favorite part.
Also, the one random her just walking past the one random cell, and there's just a skeleton there that died reaching for water.
It's got to show.
It's not much, but it's just a
badness.
grim, dark detail that I liked.
Yeah, I was that part scared me a little bit when I was a kid. I was like, "There's a skeleton," but whatever. I think my least favorite scene was not because of the contents of it, but the length of it was when they discovered that there's someone in their house.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could have been cut down a lot. I think it's a crucial scene, obviously. I mean, they have to find out that someone's in the house, and they need that. But I think that it could have been shortened a little bit. I like the gags that were in there, but there were definitely some that were repeated. I think the stuff with Dopey could have been shortened a little bit. I think the stuff of them looking around the house and seeing that it was clean could have been shortened just a little bit. I like everything that was there. I just think there's just a tiny bit too much of each of those different gags. And I think shortening it could have.
I was about to say it was a little too much in a lot of areas, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like it was just a little slow there. I would have liked it to not take quite as long.
I actually need to retract my previous statement because I realized after thinking, because I kind of forgot about this scene, even though we talked about it. I think the scene that I actually like the least, and I think could have gone without, is when she's singing with a smile in a song. Because at least with the hand washing scene, something is happening that you can watch. With that one, she's just sitting there singing, petting the animals. So I think because it could have gone straight from her being, it could have gone straight from her being scared to being like, oh, will you help me find a place to stay, instead of singing. So actually, I think that part is my least favorite scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, because cutting that scene cuts, first of all, an unnecessary song that it's got enough music. A couple of them are bangers, and you're bringing down the average. And then it's like you said, there's nothing happening. It's just showing the animals, and it's like, cool, this is not interesting at all.
So yeah,
I've seen what animals
the hand
are here
washing
next.
scene. Not even hand washing. I prefer the washing scene over that.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's give our final thoughts of the movie. Just a final statement of what you think of the movie. Now that we've talked about it, you've revisited it as an adult. And then after you give your closing thoughts, I want each of us to give the movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being this movie's awful, there's nothing good with it. 10 being this movie is incredible, and I have none to very little issues with it. So, Abby, let's start with you.
First of all, I just want to say this entire time we've basically been roasting this movie, and I'm very sorry.
Yeah, one thing you have to know about Disney
I'm not.
movies is every movie is someone's favorite. So if we're roasting a movie and it's your favorite, just
We still like it.
prerequisite apology. Sorry.
Overall thoughts, I really enjoy the movie. I like going back every once in a while. It's not my favorite, but I do like the nostalgia that it gives me, and it was a very good movie for its time. I think that it was great, being the start of the incredible franchise that Disney is now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I get my rating now?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll give it like just because of how iconic the movie is, I'll give it like a 5.5 out of 10.
Okay. Andrew, go ahead.
I was actually pleasantly surprised with it. I did not remember liking it. Of course, I was also little and scared of it. But I enjoyed it more than I was expecting to. I was pleasantly surprised by how dark and creepy it could be. I got more enjoyment out of it than I expected. But it's still not really up there as one of my favorites. It's just kind of there. It definitely is amazing for the legacy that it has created. But there are definitely bigger, better movies out there. So I'm going to give it about a 4.
Okay. Adam?
Oh, no.
I did not like this movie. I straight up did not think it was very good. Yeah, I know we're very surprised by this, but again, all the things that I think need to be improved are not subjects of the time, of where it's like, oh, well, because of the time they were in, they couldn't, like, no, I think most of this was in the writing aspect, and they, like, it goes to, like, there are no, I wrote it down, give me a second, the ending holds no weight. Whenever they're after the queen, I'm like, this all came out of nowhere when this could have been brought out through the movie, and I think they were so desperate to make a feature-length film that they basically were just stuffing things in to fill time. And I think this movie only gets the love it does because it was the first. And because, like, I think if something like Pinocchio was the very first, I would have a lot easier time being like, yeah, no, it's I understand why it gets this love and why it's the first of this. And so I'm giving it a 3 out of 10.
Ooh, okay. I like this movie. It's definitely not perfect. But I want to give this movie points for the legacy that was created because of this movie. And I want to give this movie points for the animation and just the fact that it was created when it was created, and looking at the skill of these animators and these creators in a time where animation was considered a joke and a child's thing, that they were able to make a whole movie. That's just very impressive to me. Obviously, it's not a perfect movie, but I love this movie and I think it has a great reputation. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And a lot of that is because of the reputation that it has upheld and the legacy that it created. But I'm going to give it a 6. So we got a 5.5, a 4, a 3, and a 6.
Understandable. I think that those are all pretty
not the worst scores ever. I mean, they're fairly average.
Ratings.
But yeah, that is.
I mean, I think that would probably be pretty typical for a kind of a middle of the pack movie, like this is widely considered to be.
Yeah. But that is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is.
Woohoo.
We're officially one movie in, guys. 59 to go. It's exciting.
Hey, oh.
We've done it.
So
this is gonna take us forever.
Yeah.
Deathbeds, we will be reviewing these movies.
I like
Well, this has been fun. I'm very pleased with our first episode. I'm if you're still listening, thanks for listening. Tune in next time when we talk about Pinocchio.
Still listening. Thank you for tolerating my negativity.
Thank you for just tolerating us.
Seriously, we're a lot.
Yeah. I am
Next
a lot.
time-
I am really excited for Pinocchio because I feel like this is where a lot of this is gonna start being like, all right, cool. We get to have it'll be actual opinions and seeing how this movie holds up, and not just all right, cool. Adam's crapping on this movie.
Yeah, definitely watch Pinocchio.
It'll be my first time
That's
watching
your
Pinocchio,
homework.
actually.
I'm very interested to hear your opinions.
It's fun
Abby.
because they have that live action one out now, don't
Really?
they?
It's coming out in like a week, actually.
No, it's today
It's
on Disney Plus. The live action
no,
Pinocchio.
it's the 8th
No,
that it's coming out.
no, it's not. It's the 8th.
Yeah. So that's a couple days just to date this video, but or podcast. But yeah, I'm excited to hear your perspective, Abby, as a fresh set of eyes. But everybody, do your homework. I'm excited to come in and talk about Pinocchio. Thanks for listening. This has been such a fun time recording our first full podcast episode. Hopefully, those of you that are starting from the beginning with us will stick around till the end. Thank you again, Adam, Andrew, and Abby, for doing this journey with me.
Thank you, Aaron, for hosting us.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Thanks for letting us be part of it.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. This has been Distracted Quartet of Chaos. Try not to get too distracted. We probably will, and we'll catch you next time, you guys. Bye. The Distracted podcast is inspired by Disorder Every Disney Film, which is a part of the Real Fans for Real Movies network. However, we are not affiliated with this network. We simply liked the idea. Distracted Quartet of Chaos is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company, and our opinions should not be associated as such.